Hello and welcome to Restoring Our American Republic. I'm Chuck Benoit with The Nature of Things, where we're realigning God, government, and natural law that we might restore our American Republic. Please post your comments to be part of the narrative. The effects of the assassination of Charlie Kirk is still working its way across our nation and, quite frankly, the world. One thing about this cruel act is that it establishes a clear dividing line between good and evil in our nation. People saying that both the left and the right are culpable are seeing that that is not even remotely true. Now, recently I've spoken of atheists like Ayan Hirsi Ali, Justin Brierley, and Richard Dawkins coming to faith or even proclaiming that they're now cultural Christians, as well as discussed the statistics of the Bible sales in 2024 jumping a full 20%, mostly from first-time Bible purchasers. There's, more than likely a connection between Charlie Kirk and many of these first-time Bible purchasers. It is quite amazing to watch and listen to high-level government officials this past Sunday talking about God at the memorial service, and in particular Jesus, looking for something to establish a moral base we can all live with. And when Erica Kirk forgave her husband's assassin, it was a Christ-centered highlight of Charlie's message. It's important to know, though, that forgiveness is for the person who has been wronged. It frees them from emotional anguish that they would cause themselves by hanging on to bitterness or resentment. But it doesn't preempt justice or punishment. The assassin still must be punished. And anyone who knew about the plot and did nothing are culpable as well. That's the role of government, to protect our freedom and to punish those who don't ascribe to our moral foundings. And as you've all heard me say, that natural law is the bridge that both separates and joins God and government. Religion is how we honor God. Natural law is how we live peacefully among men. And with that, I'd like to welcome in my friend and colleague, Mike Levine. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Chuck. Thanks.
Yeah,
Great open.
the world is mourning Charlie Kirk, and we're probably all getting close to not knowing what else to say, but we haven't really addressed it too much. And I'd like to use this as an offshoot to the whole idea of where God and government, fit on a daily basis. Why is faith important to our country?
Chuck, it's just, we do these 30-minute live streams, and there's no way you can do this subject justice in 30 minutes. And I'll be honest with you, over the last decade or so, I've personally just gone through, so much spiritual growth. It's fun. It's amazing. I mean, it's just a complete different mindset. As to we walk out the practicality of life, and then we study our Bible and apply those principles to our lives, and it becomes who you are, the character of who you actually are when you subordinate to the laws of nature and nature's God. So it's totally critical. In my opinion, Chuck, I don't believe that the United States can be what the world has known it to be over the last 249 years if we don't establish a Judeo-Christian foundation for the way we behave in this country, Chuck.
Yeah, well, there's been a long and slow attack on our values, and it did start in the legal section at Harvard. I've talked about this before. when they decided to change the foundational principles of our justice system from natural law, as articulated by William Blackstone in his commentaries on the laws of England, and put it in the hands of judges, where a judge then becomes the foundational, his decision becomes a foundational principle in what is right and what is wrong. Putting right and wrong in the hands of judges who've shown themselves to be politically divided, and that doesn't really that doesn't give us a strong foundational principles for morality and right and wrong. And I would even go so far as to say that it was this move to case law from natural law that has set up the whole idea of lawfare in and of itself. But faith in God, and everyone gets to say, well, your God isn't my God. Well, the God of the Bible has been around for so long, and he's the only one that we're given a book that says he wrote it. We can talk about one nation deciding that this person or this concept is a god, or that person or that concept is a god, but none of them have written a book and clearly articulated his wishes and desires over the course of thousands of years, with 40 plus authors, and never really contradicting itself. I mean, that's pretty amazing stuff. The Bible is an amazing book.
Yeah, it totally is, Chuck. Wow. So yeah, so I'm at a loss here, Chuck. Sorry.
That's okay.
But it's true.
Okay.
So again, honestly, let's go to the next step and say, because I totally agree. You're talking about judges, right? But let's talk about the legislature. It's amazing in America over the last, really since our founding, we have put our leadership on such a on such a pedestal. Every time we have a local meeting of any kind, we introduce our elected officials and they stand up and take a bow, and we praise before them and all that. And that's great. And they also have a responsibility to govern according to natural law, Chuck. So when you go to, my mind today, typically on these live streams we focus on the state, okay? And of course, we talk about local government quite a bit because of all the interaction between the state and the local government that we see. But I'm saying to you, Chuck, my point is that if the Florida legislature doesn't govern according to natural law, then our legislators, our elected officials, don't deserve the accolades that we give them. And I just want to tie this back into something I talk about all the time about economics, because economics is natural law, Chuck. And if we're subsidizing certain things, the carrot and stick of economics, we're tinkering with natural law, Chuck. And that doesn't work.
Yeah,
we are violating it. So as I said to the Florida Chamber of Commerce when I interviewed with them in 2024 in my House campaign, sending our kids to economic schools at University of Florida or Florida State or pick a university, UCF, whatever, is a disservice to our children. We put them into an academic environment that teaches natural law effectively, the laws of economics. And then the government tramples all over those laws, Chuck, which sets ourselves and our kids up for failure, because we make business decisions based on the natural laws of economics and the government tramples on those laws. Therefore, we have no predictability. As you pointed out earlier before we came online, Chuck, you were saying everything is so unstable. How can you possibly plan your life? How can you build your life around a unstable platform? And I'm saying to you and the audience that if we do not honor natural law in all aspects of our life, then we are going to have this chaos. And I would just like to close this part by saying that the institutions that are running this country actually capitalize on chaos. You can't have double-digit returns on investment if you have no volatility. So what we do is we intentionally create volatility so that we can have, in hyper returns on invested capital, Chuck. And that is an intentional thing that we're doing in this country. And now with the Federal Reserve and the International Monetary Fund and all that, we're spreading it globally. So basically, we've turned into a boom and bust economy because we will not follow the laws of God, Chuck.
There you go. There you go. Very well said. One of the other things that Charlie Kirk kind of really capitalized was the idea of family. He was encouraging these young people to find someone that they can love and support and get married and have plenty of children. This whole idea of needing illegal immigration because we don't have enough people could very easily be taken care of by getting married and having kids. I mean, it's really a very wonderful thing, to love someone and instill your values in young people. So I thought that was an interesting aspect of Charlie that, for whatever reasons, I didn't necessarily pick up on until recently.
Yeah. Well, Charlie Kirk's life trajectory, like everything else, I said before, life is a work in progress. This senator from Louisiana, John Kennedy, once said that he was talking about a particular issue. And he said, well, if you can believe that, well, then you must have peaked when you were in high school, which really means that your intellectual, emotional development ended on graduation day, and now you're going to be the person that you're going to be the person you were when you graduated from high school for the rest of your life. And then I'm going to just juxtapose that against the idea of lifelong learning, because that's what we're about. And now let me just go back to Charlie Kirk, because Charlie Kirk is a work in progress. I watched Charlie Kirk in the beginning of his career, and I looked at it, and he was a lot like everybody else, that he was out, he had a mission. And he was building an organization, and it's a media organization. So the whole thing is kind of built around bringing attention to yourself so that you can, you can insert a message into the political ethos out there. And in the beginning, I kind of thought maybe Charlie Kirk is just another one of those guys. But it's also interesting that during the memorial service, I think his name's Larry Arndt of Hillsdale College, spoke at the memorial service saying that Charlie Kirk took 31 of his courses, and every time he finished a course, he would email or text the certificate, say, hey, Mr. Arndt, here, I just finished this one and this one and this. He did 31 of them. And let me say to you, Chuck, anybody, and I encourage everyone to go back and watch and spend a couple of hours, watching the video clips of Charlie Kirk interacting with these students, and his ability, the wisdom that he sowed into these kids during these events came from the 31 courses he took at Hillsdale College. So which is a biblically based curriculum. So this is where Charlie Kirk wasn't in the beginning. Charlie Kirk wasn't the Charlie Kirk that this executioner took down. Okay, Charlie Kirk is a different person the day he died from the day he began Turning Point USA. That is the evolution of Charlie Kirk. So I'm saying to all of this, to myself, to you, Chuck, you and I have been working on this a long time. But I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow morning, we should not be the same person we were when we woke up today. If we're working on ourselves as we should be through biblical principles, we are evolving all the time. That is how wisdom is created. And then I just like to, for a little self-serving pitch to our young people, young people, please do not write off your parents and your grandparents. We have some history here. We've lived life here, and we love you, and we want the best for you, and we want you to benefit from our experience. And I understand that technology is changing the world every 3 months, that we're on a hyper technological exploration here, and that the world is changing very quickly. But it doesn't cancel the wisdom of your parents and your grandparents, young people. So just keep that in mind. I would hope that you would keep it in mind, not for our benefit, but for your own. We love our grandchildren. We love our great grandchildren, the children of their children. We want our bloodline to prosper. But the fact of the matter is that prosperity comes from the teachings of God. And if we as parents didn't do a good job instilling the word of God into you and beneficial, and I will tell you something now, Chuck, this is what I love about the Jewish people. The Jewish people teach their children into the Torah beginning when they're 5 years old, and bar mitzvah them into adulthood at 13 years old. And I'm saying to you that this works. Okay? This is why Jewish people are among the most successful people on the planet, even though the number in their population is less than 1%. So there's a lot to it, Chuck. There's a lot of benefits to teaching the ways of the Lord to our children, beginning when we're 5 years old. Can I just keep on one more little point here, Chuck? Do you mind?
All right.
So I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, that our kids make a lot of mistakes when they're in high school, right? This is when I was in high school, the guys kind of had a very interesting attitude about sex. And I'm not going to say what some people called it, right? But again, there's I wish I could remember her name. Her name is Jebediah. And she used to work for Fox News, and she has a big platform on YouTube and X. And she talks to the ladies, and she says, ladies, when you're looking for a good guy, typically having a big body count is how she refers to it. She says, having a big body count, which means the number of guys you've slept with, is not beneficial to finding a loyal, honest, prosperous, dedicated husband and father. Okay, you don't get, dedicated husbands and fathers from racking up body counts. Okay, and this mistake is made and instilled into our kids when they're coming of age, when they're in junior high school and high school, and then you get into the whole, sexuality of high school kids. And the reason that exists is because we're not teaching our children biblical principles, Chuck. And I just wanted to sow that in because that is so critical. Once these kids get off track and they build on the decisions they made when they were in high school, it's really hard to get back on track. And we always live with the results, what we've sown into the world. We live with those results, whether we're 15 years old or 50 years old. So it's so critical that our children learn biblical principles at an early age, Chuck. Thank you for tolerating, giving me the opportunity to, because I think that's really important. I don't know. Do you think that's important, Chuck?
I do think it's important, and but just to go back and widen things a little bit, many people don't realize, one of the things that actually kind of separate Christianity away from Judaism, and it's not how we live here on earth. How we live here on earth, the Jews were, all the promises God made to the Jews are temporal promises. They're promises having to do with life on this earth. And if the mantra was blessings for obedience, if you obey my earthly commands, I will bless you. If you disobey them, I will bring curses on you. And the Jewish people saw that over and over and over again. The idea that it is very hard. It's hard to obey God. And the Christian faith is God's answer to that. It is very hard. It's hard without God indwelling you. And so what the Christian faith is not necessarily how to live here on earth. It's how to make ourselves available to heaven. That the death and resurrection of a perfect person, Jesus, who lived a perfect life, and then paid the price of a sinful life, um, is that price is given to us if we're willing to accept Jesus. Now, accepting Jesus means to actually be filled with his Holy Spirit. And that's that's what takes the law and writes it on your heart. And that's, of course, the eventual, the eternal promise that God made to the Jew. I will write my laws on your heart. And the Christian, again, the point is the Christian has their right to heaven based on the substitutionary work of Jesus Christ, but we get our benefits here on earth no different than anybody else by fulfilling the laws God gave the Jewish people for this life. So the idea that many people will say, well, the Christian just has to believe Jesus and they don't have to do anything else. Well, that's not necessarily true. And the idea that it would be true is it's almost arcane. We must live honorable lives, and those and what is honorable and dishonorable is has been codified in society as natural law. But society has defined natural law as the laws of nature, what is natural, and nature's God, which is the Bible. The Bible, the God of the Bible, is the only God that claims to have created the universe. He's the only God that claims he has fashioned mankind in his image. The idea that the Jewish people had these natural laws, the Ten Commandments, about 1,500 years before the rest of humanity should give us pause as well. This God of the Bible, is in fact God. What say you?
I say Jesus was Jewish.
Yeah,
Jesus said, "Those who love me keep my commandments."
yes, he does.
What are the commandments, Chuck? The commandments are given to us in the books of Moses. And Jesus was totally consistent with that. Jesus studied with rabbis. You're the biblical expert. So I'm not disagreeing with anything you just said, am I? Anything I just said inconsistent with what you said, Chuck?
No, 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 no. What people have to realize is what we're dealing with here. There's no difference here on earth. What's different for the
Right,
Christian is their authority to get to heaven. You see,
right.
when Donald Trump, it's just so it's I won't say it's comical because it's not, but it is a bit sad when the president of the United States, thinks he's got to stop some wars on earth in order to get to heaven. He totally misunderstands the gospel message. There's nothing we can do to get ourselves to heaven. There's nothing we can do. We needed to be perfect. And the scriptures say one man, Adam, sinned, and so all men have become sinners. And it's only fair that only one man has to be righteous in order for other men, even all men, to be righteous. And that's the what is fair and unique about God. He set up the equation so that he could fulfill the law. And when Jesus fulfilled the law, the law was fulfilled. Now we're dealing with our right to live eternally with God. That's different than what we get here on earth based on what we do here on earth. And what we do here on earth for our survival and our benefit here on earth ends here on earth. What we do for eternity, which is accepting the completed work of Jesus Christ for ourselves, accepting that Jesus Christ died for my sin, is why I can get to heaven. It's not based, I know I'm going to heaven because it's not based on how good I did. It's based on how good Jesus Christ did. And he did really, really well. He loved not
And
his
that's,
life.
and I, Chuck, we're talking politics here.
Yeah, we
For the
are.
most part. We're talking, obviously, it's the alignment as you pointed out in your open, but we're dealing with what's going on here on earth, Chuck.
Right.
That's what politics is. We're dealing with what's going on here on earth. And the way to have a peaceful, prosperous culture and society is to walk out the natural laws of God, Chuck. And I know we agree on that subject. Please confirm that we agree on that subject. We have to walk out the natural laws of God in order to have a peaceful, harmonious, prosperous, and continuous life, not only for ourselves, but for our kids and our grandkids and their posterity. So that's what we're doing, Chuck. We're trying to sow peace and love and harmony and, justice into the world. And without justice, there is no love, Chuck. So
that's true.
I know we're on the same page here, but it's so critical. And it's really heartbreaking that we have to lose martyrs like Charlie Kirk. I mean, I'll tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, over the last, honestly, even a few weeks before the assassin executed Charlie Kirk, I'm watching him interact with these kids on campus. And I'm saying to myself, this kid's going to be the president of the United States. There's just no way that you can have someone who is so aware, connected as Charlie Kirk, and he does not elevate to be the president of the United States. It's impossible. We haven't heard this. And for him to be able to go back and reference, in the forming of our Constitution, he went back and referenced the constitutions of the 13 colonies. And they said, well, the Constitution only references God 4 times. And he said, really, 4 times? Right? In a little short document, we talk about God 4 times. What do you want? You want God in every sentence? Right? And then, and then he goes back and explains to them. He says, no, in order to understand it, you've got to look at the constitutions of the 13 states, which he got from Hillsdale, Chuck. Yeah. He got that by going through those 31 courses at Hillsdale. So I go back to my original point. Charlie Kirk was not the Charlie Kirk that we know when he was 18 years old. He wasn't the same Charlie Kirk 2 years ago. Charlie Kirk is a much evolved soul on the day that they took him from us than he was when he started Turning Point USA. And I challenge myself, Chuck, and everyone watching this live stream and record it or whatever, challenge yourself, grow daily, study the Bible, counsel with people who understand God, which is, in my world, rabbis. Okay? They understand this. They've been studying this for generations. How many times do you meet a rabbi and find out that he's like a 7th generation rabbi? And these and our faith leaders, not just rabbis, all of our faith leaders, when they're really fulfilling their role as a faith leader, they're involved in the lives of their congregations. They know these people. They know their families. They know they listen. Like you could go into the Catholic tradition of confession, right? But these faith leaders are involved in the family lives of their congregations and guide through biblical principles, help us evolve. help us get a better understanding of the Word of God. That is how we evolve as human beings, not because of our iPhone, Chuck.
There we go. Well, believe it or not, our time is up. I was going to make one
No
more
way.
comment. Yeah, I know it's hard to believe. Hard to believe. Yeah, I was going to make one more
Oh,
comment. The
yeah.
Bible says the law has been given for lawbreakers. And it's interesting to know that over the course of society, as we as a people begin to be the lawbreakers, we end up with more and more and more laws. That's natural. And if we want less and less and less laws, if we want limited government, then we need to be able to govern ourselves. See, it's a kind of a double entendre when I say, if you're unwilling to govern yourself, you'll be governed by tyrants. Because first of all, we have to govern ourselves personally and individually. We have to be a moral person. And we also then have to be a part of the actual governing process, paying attention to what's happening, paying attention to who's legislating what, who's voting one way or another way. We have a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and a Republican governor. And our latest scorecard for how well we did from a conservative perspective was a C. A C. So someone
I
is
just want
not
to put a little
governing,
icing on the cake, Chuck. Are you done?
someone is not governing themselves in
Right.
either
So I'm going to just
direction.
throw a little icing on the cake, Chuck. Let me take this thing
Well,
to the next level, right?
I'm going to let you
If you're
finish
not
up,
willing
Mike.
to govern yourself, okay, if you're not willing to govern yourself, you'll be governed by tyrants. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? If you're not willing to govern yourself, you are a tyrant. Thank you, Chuck.
And thank you all again for tuning in to our twice weekly live stream. Please follow us on Facebook at Restoring Our American Republic, or check us out on YouTube at Restoring Our American Republic ROAR. Like and share the program. And again, if you're unwilling to govern yourself, you will be governed by
You
tyrants.
are a tyrant.
See you next time. And meanwhile, God bless you. God bless President Donald J. Trump. And God bless America.